Hey guys, welcome to my our Kickstarter intensive. I'm really pumped to have you here. Let me know in the chat where everyone's from. I love to start with icebreakers first so that we can warm up and get into it. So I'm in Toronto, Canada. So we just had a long weekend, one of the last long weekends of the summer. So this is my first day back at work today. So I'm feeling so refreshed and relaxed. Where is everyone from? You know, the last time we did this, we did it on a different topic and we had people from the UK, Australia, despite the time we had people all over the US and a couple of Canadians too. So don't be shy. Let me know in the chat where you are from. And we're not going to start until someone tells me where they're from. We'll let the awkward silence commence. Let's make sure you can hear me. Also, can you hear me okay? This is also a check. Awesome. Julie, can you use the chat? Seeing people are using the Q&A. Chat is disabled. Oh no, getting a note that chat's disabled. Ooh, let me see if I can. Okay, if not, I guess we'll have to use the Q&A. That's so weird. Give me 2 seconds just to double check that. How chat, show chat previews, raise hand, stop recording polls, chat. Okay, well, that's interesting. I didn't realize chat could be disabled. Help, Zoom, preferences. Just give me a sec to troubleshoot this. And if we can't, then don't worry. Copy invite link. Video, audio. We're not going to spend too much time on this because we also have the Q&A as a backup. Okay. So how to enable chat webinar. Sign into Zoom, account management, meeting tab. Okay, unfortunately, I think we're gonna have to do this without chat because I don't want to, yeah, you know what? Let me see if it's something where if we restart the room, are we going to have chat enabled? Let me just confirm that. And then, because I don't want to do this without chat if we can avoid it. Webinar, edit. Yep, unfortunately, we cannot have chat, but that's okay because we'll use the Q&A, which is interesting because I have never used Q&A before. So let's go with this. Chat is disabled. Anyway, we have Tim here from Good to See You. We have Vancouver. Let me know in the Q&A section because chat's disabled. Where is everyone from? So we have another Canadian. Julie, I know you're in the States. I don't know if you're at home or not, but. And Linda, I think you're in Toronto, aren't you? Love it. Yes, I was right. Amazing. Okay, great to see you guys. So today I have an agenda, my agenda, but what I would love to know is what is something, be it a question or concern or something that you would like to make sure that we cover today. The one thing I love about being kind of my strong point coming in and having a very loose agenda is I'm able to customize part of what we teach up to your situation. So let me know in the Q&As if there's something really specific, be it a question or whatnot, that you want to make sure we cover. And if we don't cover it during the main portion today, then we're going to be covering in the Q&As at the end. So while you're doing that, I'm going to cover what we are going through today. So this is a Kickstarter intensive, meaning I want to spend about 2 to 3 hours with you guys today workshopping. So what it's going to go like is that we are going to be able to take breaks and we will have a 20-minute break in the middle to pause and just reset. With that, my goal today is to help you workshop. So the goal of workshops is that I am going to be teaching certain things such as how to know when Kickstarter is the right move for your business. If it is, how to start actually planning for that first campaign. And there will be some workshops that we do where we actually pause for 5 to 10 minutes and do some work on our own and bring it back and help you really use today to work through some things you may have been stuck on, whether that is deciding whether you want to do Kickstarter, deciding to actually build your marketing plan today, actually getting guidance on your product, whatever that looks like. I want to be able to workshop and help you through that today. So with that, Kentucky, awesome. With that being said, the way that I'm going to be managing the Q&A/chat today is that I find chat very distracting. So I am going to be checking back every so often, but I will not be monitoring it through the course of this. So whenever I explain a topic, sometimes I might ask if you have any questions about it. If something's not clear, I might go back to chat to just help remove any roadblocks that you may have. But apart from that, if I don't answer your question directly for a few minutes, it's not because I'm ignoring it to stay in flow so that I can make sure I can stay present and deliver value for you. Okay, so is that all good? Let me know you can acknowledge that in the Q&As. The other thing I'm going to say is that so my goal with doing this intensive is to help you see whether Kickstarter is the right path forward for you and what that can look like. At the end, I will be upfront and say that we do have an offer at the end of this, but my goal today is to show up and provide value. It's not to, just pitch you and make sure you walk away thinking like, what the heck was that? I wasted 3 hours of my life. That's not my goal today, but there will be an invitation at the end. So if you are interested in learning more, we'll talk about all that after the intensive. Okay. So let's grab a sip of water. Does everyone have a notebook to take notes in? Grab that. I'm a old-fashioned pen and paper. There's something to be said about, I help learn by writing stuff down. There's scientific proof that shows that your retention is better when you actually have pen and paper. So I tend to have journals everywhere and take notes, even if I never look at them again. So whatever your note-taking thing is for today, make sure you have that open, and then let's get into it. So first off, I would love to know how many of you have been to actually watched any of my content in the past, whether that's on YouTube or been to an intensive before. Let me know if this is you're familiar with our stuff, or if this is really your first time kind of interacting with me. I'd love to know. If this is your first time, put a 1 in Q&As. And if you're like a client, you've been to an intensive, or we have, you've just gone through our content before, put 2 in the chat. Let me know who is the first time. Yes, Julie, love it. Linda, great. Number 1, love it. Okay, so let's actually start with quick introduction, and then we will get into some questions. But Julie, I love this. She wants to know if there are any specific rules for existing brands that already sell product. What are Kickstarter's rules for that? So we'll definitely be covering that, because that falls nicely into how do you know if Kickstarter is right for your thing, right? Cool. Awesome. So Julie, we'll just make sure you write down those questions and we'll go from there. So let's take a drink of water. Go from there. Okay. So this is maybe your first time, or maybe you're not too familiar with my work. I'm Khierstyn. All this journey and everything got started where back in 2015, before I became a Kickstarter expert or guru or whatever you want to call me, back in 2015, I had just moved back to Toronto from London, England. I spent 2 years there backpacking, trying to find myself, and I started a little side hustle that I called a consulting business. At the time, I ended up actually running out of money, as you do after 3 years of backpacking and going through inheritance. And so I was forced to move back to Toronto, which I don't know if I've admitted this publicly, but there's a story to this. I moved back to Toronto after I had $500 left to my name, and a friend let me rent their basement apartment for $100 a month, which was great. And at the time, I just thought I'd be in Toronto for a couple months. And I did, to pick myself back up and start to get into Toronto, which at the time it was a new city. I didn't know anyone but a couple of good friends. One thing that had helped get me some business while I lived in England was I went to every meetup group possible. So in London, they have a ton of in-person entrepreneur meetup groups. That's just what I did. I quit a corporate job I hated and ended up just going out and networking and picking up a few clients. In that business, that first business in whatever iteration that was in London was not super successful. So when I moved back to Toronto, I did the only thing I knew how to do, which was start to build my network and get out there and start talking to people. So I went up to 9 days after moving back to Toronto. I went to a startup grind event, which is a international kind of meetup group. And I met the founder of a product company, or a guy at the time who had just an idea for a cool product. It was a vest that helps you lose weight through cold temperatures. And when he first told me what it was, I was like, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. Like, you can't lose weight through cold temperatures. But little known fact, became friends with this guy, and he shares the science and shares a few other campaigns that have been done with different versions of the product that he was looking to launch. And so it actually turns out that there was something to brown fat and fat loss with cold temperatures, that he actually wanted to put together a solution to help sell to that market, to help people lose weight with cold. And so we ended up, because I knew a little bit about the online space at the time, this is way before my crowdfunding days. But I knew next to nothing about the online space, but I knew a little bit about digital marketing, just a little bit more than him. So we decided to somehow partner up on this idea. And so he was the visionary, the ideas guy, and I was someone who knew how to build teams. I was someone who had successfully coached multiple startups in the past, and understood marketing. So we seemed like a natural fit. We ended up coming together and planning for this Indiegogo launch over a couple of months. So we hired 2 interns. We did research online. We figured out what we had to do to get a video together for the launch. We scrapped together a page. We got some models together. Like we did what we thought we had to do with the information that was online to launch this product. And at the time, again, knew nothing about crowdfunding until we really started to look into it. So I was newbie. We ended up launching this product on Indiegogo, and you can imagine what happened with that. The first campaign, we made literally every mistake you could think of, which I'll talk about today. But that first campaign, we needed $50,000 to manufacture, which was actually 5 times less than we really needed, but we just said 50K, and we ended up only raising 17,000. So at the time, by the end of that first campaign, that idea looked to us like it was pretty much dead. We thought, you know what, the market obviously doesn't want this. We failed. What do we do? At that point, here's a valuable lesson in this. What happened was we ended up having 2 choices at the end of that campaign. We thought either taking it as this product is a failure and we should just move on with our lives and whatnot, or we dig in and try to figure out what happened to see if it was in fact the product, or maybe it was just our implementation. So we, after licking our wounds, went back to the drawing board and looked to figure out what happened, because it was a weight loss product. We managed to get 100 people to buy. So there had to be some market for this. We talked to marketing gurus. We started talking to our customers, and we discovered over the course of a few weeks of diagnosing that we made the biggest mistake when it comes to Kickstarter, in terms of we didn't come in with an audience and we didn't test our messaging. So valuable lessons. When we actually redid the campaign and relaunched it a couple months later, we ended up going from a $17,000 failure to one that did $600,000 in 30 days with close to 5,000 customers. And at that point, that was such a turnaround for us that we went from what we thought was a failure to tweaking a couple things, and then boom, we took off with that. Now that product ended up being a huge scam, and I had nothing to do with the manufacturing or product development. I was just the naive marketer at the time. But I ended up using that campaign to start to talk about that journey. And funny story, I don't need to get into all the gory details unless if we sit down for a coffee one day, but the founder was supposed to speak at another event to talk about what we did differently to go from a $17,000 failure to a $600,000 viral success. But the founder didn't want the limelight. He's like, Khierstyn, you're doing this talk. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, whatever. So anyway, he forced me to well, he didn't force me, but he basically strongly suggested that I was the one to talk in front of this room. So I did. And that launched my career, because in that room was our second campaign, a tap lock, which is a fingerprint or a padlock that opens with your unique fingerprint. And I met the team there. We ended up launching that product a few months later, raised $342,000. From that, went on to another, at that time, I think it was Pavlok, which was another $300,000 plus success story. We worked with founder.com to launch a coffee table book, which I actually have it. Watch me break my wall here. But we launched this coffee table book out of Australia, $200,000 raised. We then worked with Chris to launch the Jamstack, and Jamstack is our biggest success story so far, where over the course of 2 campaigns, we've raised over $700,000, including an equity raise that did over, I believe, $150,000. And it's a company that now is valued at over $9 million. So a lot has happened since 2015. All of these success stories have started from one thing. It started from an idea of a unique or a custom product. And it comes with success over success. And I think that in the very beginning, that $600,000 success, I will still tell you, I felt like it was a fluke, and I thought we just got lucky. But in having to replicate that success over and over and over again, you start to learn something about being able to predict how well products will do when it comes to a Kickstarter Indiegogo campaign. So ever since that day, we have seen some of these companies and many other success stories after that fact. We've coached dozens of students to success through launches on their own website, through Kickstarter, Indiegogo, to really use Kickstarter as a launch pad for funding. And I want to talk today because Kickstarter, if you guys have been following my work, it has definitely changed over the last 5 years, and I will be addressing that because I feel that we have to keep up with how the market shifts, and I do want to address that. So some of the things I'm saying today are really the first time I'm covering it in training like this. I have covered a little bit of it on our YouTube channel, but that's time thing for another day. So now we are in 2022. I have raised multiple millions of dollars through working with our clients. A lot of those companies went on to multiple 7-figure success stories, and that's my mission today. I want to talk to you about if you are an existing brand or you are looking for different funding options, how Kickstarter might be an opportunity for you. And if it isn't, what is a backup that you can use? Okay, let me get some coffee. And of course, any questions, let me know below. Okay, so the first thing I want to cover is what Kickstarter is and what it isn't. When I say Kickstarter in this training, I am talking about Indiegogo or Kickstarter. So I'm talking about crowdfunding in general. There are 2 kinds of crowdfunding that you do. The one we're talking about today is rewards-based crowdfunding, which means that you launch your product, whether you're an existing brand or very new, but you launch your product and people give you money in exchange for product. So they buy, essentially what they're doing is they're pre-ordering your product, okay? Now, the difference between rewards-based crowdfunding, which is Kickstarter, and equity crowdfunding, which, because this intensive is geared toward people who are in market already, you might have looked at equity crowdfunding. Equity crowdfunding differs by where you are, whether that is in the UK, in the US, or Canada. Equity crowdfunding is where you do a crowdfunding campaign to raise financing, essentially, not financing, it's not the right word, but to raise capital and investment. And when people are giving you money, you're actually trading equity for that. So you're actually getting shareholders with an equity crowdfunding platform, as opposed to rewards-based, which is Kickstarter, which is exclusively what we're talking about today. If you do want me to cover when you should do equity crowdfunding, when you should do Kickstarter, just let me know in the chat and I'll make sure that we cover that today. Okay, so Kickstarter itself, and again, Kickstarter means Kickstarter, Indiegogo. Let's just try to keep the nomenclature simple here. But when it comes to Kickstarter, Kickstarter is a way for small businesses to get their inventory funded for new products. So the way a Kickstarter campaign works, and yeah, the way it works is that if you have a product that you're looking to bring to market, so let's say, I'm going to use Founder, actually, because I use Monk Manual a lot. So let's say you have a book that has not been printed yet, or a planner or a product or guitar amplifier or whatever that looks like. You have a product that after you have done the initial product design, you talk to manufacturing partners or printers, and you know that you need to get about $20,000 to cover the cost of manufacturing. And you, as a startup, have two choices. You either can take that out of savings or risk a second mortgage on the house, right? Or what you can do, or you can tie up your money into inventory that you won't be able to really make that money back on for a few months. Or what you do is you do a crowdfunding campaign where people end up pre-ordering your product, therefore financing your inventory. Okay. So that in a nutshell is why so many brands go to do a crowdfunding campaign, because either if you're an existing brand like Julie, for you already are in market with products, you may not want to sink money that you have set aside for marketing or other inventory into inventory. So you may be attracted to doing a crowdfunding campaign because you like the idea of not tying more cash flow into inventory, and you like the idea of kind of financing through pre-orders. So that's where the Kickstarter really became the go-to funding method for small businesses, because it allowed you a bootstrapped way to get inventory paid for, not affecting your cash flow too much, and allowing you to not have to trade equity, which is super important. So that's the number one reason why people crowdfund. The way a Kickstarter campaign comes together is that you do a marketing campaign around your product. So when you go live on Kickstarter, you have about 30 to 60 days to raise your goal. And if you meet that goal, then Kickstarter gives you the money and you go into production. Simple as that. So we can get into specifics on different questions, stuff like that throughout the process. But that's essentially how it comes together. The timeline for how Kickstarter happens is that when you decide to launch, so right now we're getting ready to do our Q4 Kickstarter launches, which means launching products between September 30th and January 1st. In that time frame, we don't just kind of wait until September 30th to press go. We're already preparing for campaigns. We're already doing work behind the scenes to build awareness so that we have traction and things that come together on the very first day of that launch. Okay. So it's not as simple as just press the button and you go live. There's a lot of work that goes behind it. But before I get ahead of myself, let me check my notes. I lost my spot. We have talked about what is Kickstarter. So let's talk about why people use it. So if it isn't for just getting your inventory paid for, what are some other benefits of Kickstarter? Maybe you are a cash positive business and you don't actually need the money from Kickstarter to manufacture. Great. Should you still do Kickstarter? Well, let's talk about the benefits. Kickstarter is a public platform, meaning they have a built-in community of people or backers that are there ready to pre-order your product. The interesting thing about Kickstarter backers versus people that buy on your Shopify store are that they are early adopters. So early adopters are people that tend to want to jump on new products before they're because they like new innovative tech. They like to be the first. They like the kind of the exclusivity that Kickstarter has, because on Kickstarter, you don't just get the next widget, you get cool products that are not available on the market yet. And that's really the allure of a backer to stay on Kickstarter and buy and get on Kickstarter, because not only are they helping you get your startup off the ground, but they get to buy products that don't even exist yet. They get to buy products that, frankly, there's no one else selling that specific thing in the market yet. So Kickstarter with this built-in community really has this cool effect where when you come in and you bring a little bit of traction yourself, which we'll talk about, you have it so that, getting out of breath here, you have it so that your product gets the opportunity to be introduced to a community of millions of people around the world who can buy your product. So second benefit to Kickstarter is the awareness piece. Not only are you able to get that inventory, but Kickstarter has this built-in organic audience that allows your product to be discovered by people around the globe, or in your country if you just want to sell in the US, which is okay. That's number two. Number three, Kickstarter launches are all public, meaning there are always going to be PR, media, wholesalers, people that are kind of shopping on Kickstarter looking for the next greatest thing. They're looking for stories. They are looking for products to feature. They are looking for wholesale distributorship in products. So because Kickstarter launches are public, meaning the amount that you raise and the number of customers and really how popular you are is something that everyone can see. So the third benefit to doing a Kickstarter campaign is some of the opportunities it opens up. When you prove there's demand for a product and you're a popular product, you are going to get emails from, a ton of scammy marketing agencies. But that aside, let me know in the Q&As if you have already done a campaign and you know what I mean about the scammy marketing campaigns or scammy marketing emails. But without getting too off topic here, Kickstarter will open up opportunities, whether that's for press, whether that's for wholesale, whether that's for cross-promoting with other brands. And those are really the top three reasons why you're going to see people go to Kickstarter: funding, awareness, and building your audience, and three, opportunities. Okay. So Kickstarter looks like an absolute no-brainer, right? Like after I list off all these opportunities, why isn't everybody doing Kickstarter? I want to talk about the cost of doing Kickstarter. I want to talk about what it really takes, and I want to talk about how you know for sure if Kickstarter is for you. So the last thing I want is to be one of those marketing people online that tells you how easy an opportunity is and sell you on it, but not actually tell you the downside. That's not my MO. I like to be brutally honest about the process so that you know what you're getting in for. We set the right expectations and you go into it with both eyes open, because Kickstarter can be wonderful. It could also be the worst thing you do. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Let me know if that's interesting to you. I mean, I hope so, because you're here. So why to use it? We've talked about that. I want to talk about next how to know if you can use Kickstarter. And can you let me know in the Q&As what product you are launching, what kind of product you're launching? You don't have to be super specific, but just let me know if it's like a fitness product, if it's a book, if it is a piece of fashion tech, like what that looks like. Okay. Okay, it's so great to see you. So let me know the product. So how do you know if you can use Kickstarter? First off, let's go to Kickstarter.com and let me share my screen. Okay. So share screen. Who here's actually bought something on Kickstarter before? Ventilator, jacket, lamp, love it. Okay. Yeah, we have all kinds of niches here, which I love. I love that. Okay, so how to know if you can use Kickstarter? The first thing I like to know, and we've actually put together we're launching it, I think this week, we've put together a one-pager that's not true. We put together a quiz that's going to help you decide where to launch your product. So if you're going through something in the future, you're like, I just don't know if I should do Kickstarter or Shopify. We have a tool now in a few days that's going to help you figure that out, which is really, 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 really cool. So how to know if you can do Kickstarter first? Well, the very first thing we want to know is there demand for your product? So Kickstarter is for new products only. So what that means is that if you're selling a widget on Amazon already, Kickstarter will not let you on their platform because Kickstarter is for new products. What that means is if you are either a new brand that is launching a new product, you qualify. If you're an existing brand, so Julie, I think this is going to answer your question nicely. Julie has a line of journals, affirmations, digital products, etc. An existing brand that was actually launched on Indiegogo, I think, a couple of years ago, and she wants to come back and use Kickstarter, Indiegogo to launch her product. So if you're an existing brand, you absolutely can use Kickstarter to launch it, but you cannot have sold that product that you're launching on Kickstarter. You cannot have that for sale on your website or anywhere else. You will see in the review process, because with Kickstarter, before you can go live with your project, you do have to get approved. Kickstarter will do their due diligence to see if anything you're already selling the product online, just to be safe. But if they do catch something, or if Julie, if a product looks too similar to the new one you're launching, you can always clarify that and just make sure that you put enough distance between your existing products and the new product you're launching. So that's the only thing. So number one, you need to have a new product that you're bringing to market. This product does not have to be NASA grade space widget. Okay. We launched this product, Cali weights. They are these weighted bracelets on Indiegogo, a couple years back now, where they are these weights that women can use to just kind of work out on the go. Okay. I'm not going to keep them on today because I think they're a little distracting when I'm trying to stay present here. But Cali weights was not innovative, never been done before. There was a company called Bala Bangles, which were kind of the original guys to bring weighted jewelry to mainstream. And when Eric's wife tried Bala Bangles for the first time, she found them clunky, too heavy, and just frankly didn't like them. So Eric, being the Amazon seller, sees an opportunity to redesign a better version of Bala Bangles, cut the weight, make them sexier, et cetera, cater to a new demographic. And he launched Cali weights. Okay. That is generally where innovation begins. So you do not need to have something never been done before to go to Kickstarter, but you do need a new version, or you need some new version of an existing product enough so that it has a value proposition that you know people are going to buy. That's a big misconception on Kickstarter, is that I need to have something new, innovative, noteworthy to be good enough to launch. You don't. You just need to have something that, frankly, you have improved on an existing solution, and that, you know, that's good to go. So that's number one, is you need to have a new product. Number two, once you know you have a new product, you need to know that your product actually has past success record on Kickstarter. So I want to show you how to do that. And this could be something we actually do together. So feel free to pull up a browser. But what I do is I go to kickstarter.com/discover or whatnot, but just go to their discover. And what I want to do is I want to see, I'm going to take an example here. So Tim, you are doing a tech jacket, right? So if I'm looking at Kickstarter, and I already know the answer to this question, but if I'm looking at Kickstarter to see if a tech jacket or ski jacket type jacket has been done before, I'm going to go to Kickstarter and do a couple things. I am going to either search everything by category. So here, let me just go and put this in chat. Here is my Kickstarter filter whenever I'm not sure about a project. So you go to the filter and let's just say, okay, well, my jacket's probably in the design or fashion. Let's say, like, Tim, for you, it's going to be tech. Okay. Projects on Earth sorted by most funded or popularity. So you can choose whichever you want. And you see here, when you do this, you can get a sense of what were some of the most popular campaigns in the category, but right away, there's nothing here on a jacket, right? So to get more specific, what I like to do is actually go straight to Google and type in something like tech jacket Kickstarter. Okay, so you type in what you think your customer is going to be typing in when they look for look for a kind of product like yours. Okay, so heated jacket. So I want to go past the ad section, which is usually the top 1 to 3 links. And I want to say, okay, the world's first nano tech heated jacket. That sounds interesting. Let's say here, and I like to open, say, the top 5 links. Okay, and start to get a sense of success rate. So we see here that this raised about, I don't know the conversion, but say 50,000 Australian with 156 backers. That's interesting. We can go into, oh, you can actually search for travel jacket in Discover. How do we do that? More filters. Oh, okay, great. So just go to no filters and then just do jacket. Okay. We can go through here and see based on the number of backers, you can look at some of the biggest campaigns. We have like 400 backers. We have 409, 83. We have, oh, hey, what's this? The new adventure hoodie on Kickstarter. And what you can do is you can start to peruse and really get to know what are some fashion tech in your category that did really well. So they raised like 1.8 million. Pretty good, pretty good. So based on this and looking at a few campaigns, of course, there will be no product identical to yours, because that's the whole purpose of bringing a custom product to market. But what you can do is get a sense of the kinds of products to see, like, oh, hey, so if you pull up a few, you can just, I mean, I know right off the top of my head that Kickstarter jackets are one of the most funded kinds of campaigns ever. So by default, you know that your audience is going to be on Kickstarter. But then you have campaigns like this where you see, okay, only 25 backers, only raised $10,000. Why did that happen? And you see the good and you see the bad campaigns. And it's important to look at the bad campaigns to see if you can see areas of opportunity or maybe why they didn't do as well. Okay, so you can go through here and just see, like, there's a lot to learn from looking at successes and failures. Okay, so just like that. A lot of the time we don't know. I get this question a lot for, like, why did this campaign do so badly when this one did so well? And it comes down to audience preparation and time and market, which we're getting into that in a sec. Okay, but that's what you want to do. You want to look and just see, like, is there even demand for my product on Kickstarter? Why this is important is because one of the biggest shifts that I have noticed in the Kickstarter market since they launched in 2008, I think I always mix it up with Indiegogo start date, but right up until 2015, 2016, I would say that you could launch, as long as there was a market for your product, you can pretty much be successful on Kickstarter. But the biggest shift that's happened in 2016 to today, I feel, has been that more than ever now, the projects that do the best on Kickstarter are the ones that are actually launching to the Kickstarter demographic. Okay, when you look at 100% of your funding, you need to, because how do we say this? When you look at raising $100,000 or $50,000 for a product, about 30 to 40% of that, say 30%, is reliant on the Kickstarter community actually backing your project. And so because so much of that is reliant on the Kickstarter network, the projects that do the best on Kickstarter are the ones that meet the Kickstarter demographic. Otherwise, there's no point to launching your campaign. So I'll give you an example. We launched an insole for people that had undergone knee surgery or had like athletic injuries. And so when this company approached us a year ago, they originally wanted to do a Kickstarter campaign. And when we look at the market on Kickstarter for insoles and tech and athletic type things, there's definitely a market. But why we didn't go to Kickstarter was because I had a sneaking feeling that their demographic was too old for Kickstarter. So Kickstarter, so this product was we got the most interest from people 50 and up. And so when we did a quick market test, we discovered that their demographic was a little older, which means had we gone to Kickstarter, we wouldn't have been able to capitalize as much on the Kickstarter community as we needed to. So we would have ended up doing all this work and spent all this money to be responsible for bringing like 90% of our traffic and our customers. So Kickstarter did not make sense in this case. We decided to go launch direct on their website. So there are little things that you need to be conscious of. So really the next thing on number 3 is like, is it a custom product? Number 2, is there demand on Kickstarter? But 3, does my demographic line up with the Kickstarter demographic? So what ends up doing really well on Kickstarter is going to be products that they're all consumer. So if you think you can sell it on Amazon, that is going to be a prime product. I'm not talking about white labeling and all the other stuff, but think of consumer. So people like you and I that are buying it for personal use. Okay. So we look at the kinds of projects that do really well. And the top ones, if you are in design and tech, design can be, well, let's actually look in here. Things around the house, photography, things for creatives, new tech, wearables, fashion, apparel, wearable tech, okay? Things such as publishing. So publishing is like, you're going to find a lot of self-publishing authors. You find things like coffee table book, you see new planners. Publishing will be children's books. You have things such as music, which is going to be, we don't cover these 2 categories of music and games. Games are some of the most funded campaigns ever have come from RPG, board games, etc. Exploding Kittens, Secret Hitler, all the things. We don't tend to cover those. And then music is going to be authors that are bringing out a debut album or whatnot. Again, we don't cover that. But when you just get a sense, the biggest categories you're going to see are design and tech. Design and tech and publishing and apparel really are going to be the biggest ones. And it's interesting because apparel will fall under design and tech. So Tim, yours would be under design and tech. Okay. Today, we're not covering how to pick your category, but it's just important to know the kinds of products you can see doing well on Kickstarter. I don't know why I keep closing my book here. Okay, so we talked about the 3 things to look for on how to know if you can go to Kickstarter. I want to talk about, who here has seen my video, I'm leaving Kickstarter? Let me know with the yes in the comments. I'm leaving Kickstarter. And if not, I'm just going to do a crash course on it right now. I have bought jeans on Kickstarter. Okay, cool. I saw that video. Yes. Okay, so a couple. So let me fill in newbies here. So sorry, I hope you don't mind me calling you newbies. Okay. I have no filter sometimes, so oops. But that's okay. Okay. So back in November of 2021, I released a video that ended up being one of the best performing videos on our channel in such a short time frame. The title of the video is called I'm Leaving Kickstarter, and I recently did a follow-up to that last week called I'm Leaving Kickstarter Part 2. The premise of I'm Leaving Kickstarter was that back in 2021, we had essentially, I became really fed up with Kickstarter launches because what seemed to happen was that we would get great products come across our desk that I would prescribe go to Kickstarter. But because a lot of these products were generally people who were first-time brand creators bringing their first product to market that didn't have supply chain figured out yet, that were desperately needing the money from inventory on Kickstarter to be successful in order to actually bring their product to market. What we have seen in the market in the last 3 years, especially since 2020, is that the Kickstarter market has shifted, where because Kickstarter has become such a popular platform, it's become popular because of the opportunity it's given companies, startup founders, et cetera. And it's become overly crowded to a point that when you understand what goes into a Kickstarter campaign, you are going to see that it's harder than ever to stand out on Kickstarter. So before I get too deep into the strategy of this, see, I already got distracted. I saw people raised hands. Okay, sorry. So before we get too deep into the strategy, here is a 20,000 foot view of what goes into a Kickstarter campaign. You decide today that you do Kickstarter. You need to spend a couple months building up awareness, meaning building up an email list, an audience, reaching out to press, blah, 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 blah. What you're doing is you're building a wait list of people who are ready and excited to pre-order your product when you go live on Kickstarter, okay? And that process, depending on how well you build your audience, will determine how well you do on Kickstarter. The key to success on Kickstarter comes down to your ability to prove to Kickstarter that you have a popular product, so that as soon as you launch, within hours of your first day, you need to either hit your funding goal or get enough traction that Kickstarter's algorithm will figure out that you're a popular project and start to boost you on their platform. When you get boosted, that's when you become discoverable to people in the Kickstarter community. And when that happens, when you start to potentially make front page or be top of category or just be easier to find, as in not buried on the website, that's when people who are browsing Kickstarter's website find you, pre-order your product, and start to create this snowball effect, okay? When you do that, that's where you see the six-figure mark or larger happen on campaigns. I mean, that's not true. It happens early on too, but essentially that's what you're banking on with a Kickstarter campaign. You do months of preparation for it all to come down to one day that you need to hit your funding goal, and you need to get certain traction so that Kickstarter will pick you up as a popular project and move you forward, okay? So that used to be so easy, but what happens when the market has caught on to how popular Kickstarter is and how good of an opportunity it is? You're going to get the platform hitting critical mass. So you have a ton of projects launching every single day. It got to the point where it was so competitive on Kickstarter, meaning the more projects that launch, the harder it is to stand out, the harder it is to compete, and the more expensive it is to compete. So in my video on I'm Leaving Kickstarter, I felt compelled to start the conversation of what really goes into a Kickstarter campaign, because a lot of founders went into it thinking that you don't have to put a lot of money behind it. You don't have to put a lot of time behind it. You just have to launch and hope for the best. But a lot of them were sadly mistaken on the other end of that process. So I'm Leaving Kickstarter was about educating the market on the reality of doing a crowdfunding launch, in the hope that the right people in the right situation would use Kickstarter and use it to their advantage to yield the rewards that they're looking for. So going into Kickstarter, it's my professional opinion that in the last 3 years, we have seen a big shift in what it takes to do a Kickstarter campaign. with the increased popularity, this means that brands, startups have to put a lot of money and time and energy to build their audience to get to a point where they have a chance ranking on Kickstarter. Okay. But what's interesting is at the same time of Kickstarter getting almost too popular is that other opportunities opened. Consumers now have other options to buy products that never existed before. We see an increase of people doing startup campaigns on their own website. We see people kind of taking these crowdfunding launches private because for different reasons. But with the release of like Amazon getting better with more consumer options, with brands opening pre-order models, Kickstarter is not the only place to buy stuff anymore, buy new products or pre-order new products. So consumers have options. And because of that, we are seeing an overall market shift on how consumers buy, but also how people use Kickstarter. So what's super interesting about any platform, and I just released a video on, well, this was covered in I'm Leaving Kickstarter Part 2, where there is, oh, can I do this? Okay, let me see if I can do this. I always decide I need tools that I didn't prepare for. So there is a trend in the market. Okay, I want to show you that. There's a trend. And what we see today, okay, this is, if anyone knows the actual name of this chart, let me know, but this is the early adopter curve. This is the trend that we see on technology, every new platform. So we have this thing where a new platform starts here. So this is like 2007, 2008, when crowdfunding just started. At the time, nobody knew about crowdfunding, but people started to catch on, like YouTube. Early people just climbed on, and it started to be something where, hey guys, I can just put a recipe together for the world's best potato salad as a big joke and see if I can get funding. And so guy around here raises like $52,000 for the world's best potato salad, or sorry, 80 something thousand. And then, 2011, 12, 13, people start to catch on how easy Kickstarter is, how it's easy money. And it went from no one talking about Kickstarter to everyone starting to use Kickstarter. So we have this inflection point before it starts to taper off. So this is Kickstarter today. What ends up happening is we have I came into Kickstarter somewhere around here. And well, that's supposed to be my initials. And so we have this inflection point where we have like the early adopters of Kickstarter creators jumped in and started to reap really easy benefits. But then more people jumped on, and more and more and more, to a point where it then became oversaturated. And where we're at with Kickstarter right now is the market is now catching on. Like I saw, you can just read the comments in the I'm Leaving Kickstarter Part 1. So many, like over 30 comments of people just being like, yeah, this is what I was afraid of. This is why I've been hesitant to use Kickstarter. So we have this point right here, Kickstarter today, where we have almost this cooling off period where, because less and less people are using Kickstarter, and because more and more people are going to other methods, we have this period where a lot of people are deciding to not go to Kickstarter anymore. So we're going to see in the next year or so a correction back to, maybe not, I mean, we don't know what's going to be down here, 2030, et cetera, but we have this market correction where in the last few months, Kickstarter just became too saturated. Now, less and less people are going to start using the platform, which means it's going to correct itself, okay? It will correct itself, which will open up a new opportunity. This is very similar to what's happening with Facebook ads right now. Who here is getting bombarded with Instagram and Facebook ads from marketers who are saying Facebook is dead. Don't use Facebook ads. Facebook ads don't work. Here's a new opportunity. Has anyone been seeing those ads? If it's just me, let me know. But what's happening with Facebook is the same sort of thing. Back when Facebook ads platform just started, I don't even know the year that happened, but Facebook ads started, it was so cheap. It was so good. So many companies started and grew so fast because it was just cheap advertising. But now you get to the point where there's so many advertisers, so much competition for eyes, it's too expensive. And because it's too expensive, you now have all these marketers that are now saying, don't go to Facebook ads, try the new opportunity, buckle down on TikTok ads, do Google remarketing, do all these other things. And what that's going to do is herd mentality is going to work toward that and say, oh yeah, Facebook must be dead. Great, Facebook is dead. And when Facebook is dead, guess what? That's also going to that's going to normalize. And so the opportunity is in the opposite of what most people are talking about. Okay, so I want to talk about the next thing, which is whether Kickstarter is right for you. Okay, so talked about market corrections. I've talked about Kickstarter being super expensive and not in everyone's best interest. In my professional advice, here is who I think I should be using Kickstarter. If you are an existing brand, is one kind of person. Existing brand, Julie, for you, because you already have an audience that you have been building up. Okay, being in business a couple of years, you have an email list, you have supply chain figured out, you've got social proof with reviews, you've got a base. So because of that, you are trustworthy. Backers love trustworthy businesses because they know you'll be able to deliver the product that you promised, number one. Number two, because you have supply chain figured out, you're able to get a product in their hands a lot faster, which is good for you. Number three, built-in audience means that you don't have to spend thousands of dollars building up your audience, which is really good. Of course, the option is there, but if you're starting from zero, that's very difficult. Okay, so that is number one, existing brands. Side note, existing brands, go back to crowdfunding for future product launches because it turns into a product launch engine for them. Let me know if you want me to talk about that in a little bit. I need to get some water. Okay. So, second kind of person that I think should do Kickstarter. And if you don't fall in this category, don't worry, there's another way. There's another way to hit your goals. Number two, if you have an investment, savings, you are financing this from another job, as in you aren't starting with zero, hoping Kickstarter gives you money, or you aren't risking 100% of the money you had set aside for inventory in hopes that your Kickstarter launched as well. Okay, you're coming in with a good foundation to go to Kickstarter. Okay, so those are the three things. And the fourth one, which no one talks about, is your aversion to risk. This is very important, okay? Not everyone wants to do the big 90-day sprint. Some do, I love the sprint, but some don't, okay? So you have the build up to the audience and everything comes down to the moment that you launch on Kickstarter and you have 30 days to raise your goal, okay? It's intense, it's an event. You end up putting in a lot to get a lot. So Kickstarter is like the high risk, high reward proposition, okay? If that's you, good, okay? Awesome. If on the other hand, you are a startup founder that prefers the slow, methodical approach, here's where and I'm not going to talk about this now, but today, the other option would be taking pre-orders on your website. So I'm happy to talk about that process and look where that goes, okay? But you either do it quick, fast, in and out. Anyone who's done a crowdfunding campaign knows it is exhausting, but it's like you raise a lot of money. It's a lot of focused time. I love it so much. I love product launches. But again, that's not everyone's MO. So my point that I'm saying with this is that if your product fits the criteria and your financial situation / options you have available today or that you could have access to are at the point where you are super comfortable playing a high risk, high reward game, Kickstarter's for you. If not, there are other ways to bring your product to market. Okay, let me know. I'm going to take a second. I want to ask you guys, what is this valuable? Okay, are you finding value in this? And what is one of your favorite takeaways so far? I need one takeaway or we're not continuing. Haha. I know I almost overdo it. I give too much information sometimes, so I need to make sure you're still with me. What is extremely valuable? Tim, what is one big aha or takeaway so far from today? You guys are so shy. Must be the summer heat. To think I almost wore a sweater today. Knowledge about the need to differentiate products, though wondering how much is enough. Ooh, looking at similar products on Kickstarter to inform our own landing page for what works. Love it. Okay. Oh, I love this. My brain just wants to go everywhere. Okay, so I want to talk about launch options now, because this is probably the most common conversation I'm having lately is should you do Kickstarter or should you do pre-order campaign? So I want to go through more of the formula between both. Okay. So this is literally the conversation I have on sales calls where people come to me and they're like, where do I go? And I'm like, well, let me show you. So we're going to have that conversation today. Liquid energy, by the way. Love coffee. Okay. Let's do it. So let's assume Tim comes to me. I think this is actually a conversation we had, Tim. Tim comes to me and he's like, I saw your video. What should I do? Well, great question, Tim. And even if we didn't have this conversation, we're going to have it today. So, okay. Options right now. Products have to come to market. And with the supply chain problems that we have seen in the last 3 years and are still seeing, many brands have been forced to take pre-order for product, okay? This pre-orders happen whether it's a brand new product that you want to collect money for pre-order so that in 3 to 4 months, people can buy your product or receive your product, or pre-orders have been used and almost standardized because if you're an existing brand that has just run out of stock, you turn on pre-orders so that you can keep selling product and deliver it when shipment comes in. So pre-orders, where before they were really only like before 2020, they were something you would only see on Kickstarter, and it was really odd for you to see someone taking pre-orders on their own website. It just wasn't standard. But with supply chain, I feel like consumers have become it's become normal to pre-order product. Okay, so I want to talk about the difference in consumer psychology if they're buying on Kickstarter or if they're buying on your website. So and we're talking about pre-orders here 100%. So, and pre-order is anything where they have to wait longer than 2 weeks for product. If you're launching on Kickstarter, by the nature of the Kickstarter community, people are more open to waiting 4 to 8 months for product. In fact, it's standard on Kickstarter. They're used to it. They're early adopters. They know they need to wait. Kickstarter backers have a lot more patience for pre-orders than people who buy on your website. If someone is pre-ordering your product on their website, we have not been successful with pre-order campaigns where they deliver 3 months or more out. So my sweet spot for looking at when you turn on pre-orders, when you start pre-orders, should be between 6 to 10 weeks before you can actually fulfill, okay? This is super important because if you lie or mislead and say, oh, well, if they can only handle 8 weeks mentally in order for them to be comfortable pre-ordering, what's going to happen in week 9 and week 10 is if you do not over communicate manufacturing delays, that they can actually go to Stripe or PayPal or Shopify payments and say, this was a fraudulent transaction. I want my money back. And it can actually put your payment processor at risk. meaning they can stop allowing you to take transactions on your website. So for the health of your company, it is risky to take pre-orders more than 10 weeks out from your ability to fulfill, because consumers are not that patient. They don't understand why they have to wait 2 months for product, and they're not used to shipping updates. So if you can at all avoid it, if you're looking at the pre-order route, you need to be able to fulfill within a couple of months, or have a very good communication strategy built and a great refund policy, just in case something happens on the boat or at your manufacturer. So one weird thing you're going to see about pre-orders is like people on Kickstarter seem to be okay with announcing a 6-month delay. Okay, depending on how you hear it, but they want to, like, they want to kill you if you're not communicating and you're just treating your random website pre-order as a backer, because they're very different. So you have to be careful. Okay. Let's look at the high risk, high reward Kickstarter versus the slow, less risk averse option of what goes into a pre-order campaign. So Kickstarter, about, depending on where you're starting. So if you're an existing brand, I recommend that you start building your audience, preparing your audience 2 months out. So Julie, I'm again going to use you as a guinea pig. If you are launching a product in October, it's August right now. So within the next couple of weeks, I would start to build up the audience a bit, start to tease your audience that something new is coming. So you start preparing today, and in October, you launch your product. If you are starting from scratch, you have no audience, give yourself 90 days to build up your audience, assuming you're doing paid ads to accelerate that process. So you spend 2 to 3 months preparing for the launch, building your audience, to then launch on Kickstarter in October, give or take. And then you have about a month of pre-orders where your goal in Kickstarter is to hit your goal. At that point, November happens, and you then jump into fulfillment, starting to, I feel like I need a visual for this. I'm gonna get graphics made where I could just be like, no, instead of chicken scratches. Okay, so we have, if this is like the Kickstarter timeline, I don't even know if this is helpful for you, but we have today in August, we have September, October, November, December, and then 2023. I need to learn to write backwards. That's what I mean. Okay, so we have August, September launch. Okay, so in this time frame, you are building audience, you are informing audience, you're teasing audience, you're doing whatever you need to do so that in October, when you launch your product, they show up and buy your product on Kickstarter. You then spend the whole month launching your product and taking those pre-orders so that in November, a couple things happen. In November, about 2 to 3 weeks after your campaign ends, Kickstarter will give you the money, assuming you've been funded. So say 2 to 3 weeks later, mid-November, you get the money, and then you celebrate and go spend it all. Kidding, don't do that. Don't do that. Mid-November, you have that, and then you go and start fulfill. Okay, and then just do what you need to. As soon as your campaign ends in November, you want to then immediately go to Indiegogo in demand or launch pre-orders on your website. Okay, doesn't matter how you do it. What matters is that after the launch, you are now a known entity. You have people looking for your product, people talking about your product. So you need to make sure that you are always available to sell after your campaign. Okay, so that's how that transition works. When it comes to Kickstarter, and I think I'm going to pause after this little comment and answer some questions, but after Kickstarter, or with Kickstarter, you spend time building up that awareness, et cetera, do a big splash, big launch, big 30-day sprint to then jump into transition onto Indiegogo in demand or pre-orders on your own website. And then you just keep building, okay? That is Kickstarter. Kickstarter is expensive to start. So depending on, like, if you're starting and you have a goal to raise 50,000 to 100,000, assume you're putting in about $20,000 to $30,000 of marketing before you, in marketing, in order to, hit your goals. So Kickstarter is not a cash cow. Kickstarter is there to help fund your business and fund inventory. So you do have to put a lot of money into the marketing to build up that awareness, build that audience, and get the video, hire any staff you need or the consultant or whatever. You need to put in about $20,000 to $30,000 and assume your goal is to break even on your Kickstarter campaign after your inventory and all marketing costs. Okay. Some people don't want to do that. The alternative is going to be a slower approach for the ones that are risk averse and want to take a more calculated approach to this. How I would put a pre-order campaign together is this. So what I love about pre-orders is you don't actually have to spend time building up an audience if you don't want to. It's up to you. What I love about pre-orders is that because you're launching on your own website, you don't have to spend the time or the money building up this audience if you don't want to, which means you're essentially starting from zero and you're starting to take money, etc. Okay. So what I love about the pre-order approach is that how that looks from a marketing perspective. So if you work with me, my strategy that I will recommend, whether it's us doing the marketing or us advising you on the marketing, is that we recommend that you take your pre-order campaign the first 90 days after turning on pre-orders or turning on, this applies to even if you have product ready to sell, ready to fulfill tomorrow. You take that product and you spend the first 90 days in what we call an incubation period. This incubation period is where you're taking that new product that no one has ever been able to successfully sell yet, and you figure out how to sell that. So where you're spending your time and your money is, let's assume in the first 3 months, every month, you are putting aside a testing budget of $3,000 to $5,000 per month, which means you're spending $100 a day testing your product. So instead of you spending $20,000 building up this big email list in the beginning, if you're just starting, and building up a list that you then hope in 2 months will convert to customers, instead, what you're doing is you're taking a testing budget of $15,000 spent over 90 days, and you are driving traffic to your website to get actual customers. Okay. So instead of a maybe waitlist that converts at a certain point, assuming you do everything right, you drive people to your website and you methodically test, improve your conversion rate, figure out why people are buying, why they aren't buying. You're testing headlines, you're testing copy, you're testing audiences. You're doing it in a slower way to get the end goal you really want, which is to get customers. And what you're doing with the pre-order campaign is you are going slower because you actually want to take a calculated risk on knowing that the money that you're spending on ads is actually yielding you specific data on your buyer persona that you can then use to improve things. And what I love about the pre-order process, or even just getting started on your website in this way, even if your product's in market today, is that you have to figure out what combination of things is going to sell. So what does your website have to look like? What does the positioning have to look like? Who are your best audiences, etc. And the thing is that with Kickstarter, you essentially will have to do that anyway after your campaign when you start opening pre-orders anyway for your website, okay? That's why I love the idea of just launching on your own website. But again, you launch on your own website, you don't tap into the Kickstarter audience. You don't have the potential option of doing a six-figure plus campaign if that's your MO. So there are pros and cons to both. How you do it is very, very similar. It just depends on what your kind of calculated risk comfort zone is, because some people they want to go hard, they want to go fast, and others just want to take a more calculated approach. Okay, so I'm going to answer a couple questions and then let's take a break for a couple minutes. So, okay. So I'm just going to start from the top. So Julie, I answered your website. I answered your, here's me reading and trying to talk. I answered your question on, are there any rules on Kickstarter for those that already have a website? So I've already answered that. Let me know if you need any follow-up clarification. Okay, a few other questions. How do we collect payments for VIP sign up that automates into an email? Yeah, okay, so we'll talk about VIP in a second. Accept payments, Klaviyo sign up form, Shopify website for landing page. I'm seeing if there's any of that because I don't want to get too in the weeds here. Can we use our Shopify website for land? Okay, yeah, yes, confirm we keep buying. So I'll just get a couple off these right now. Julie, yes, as soon as you submit your project for approval in Kickstarter and they approve it, you can add or change anything you want. You can change the video, you can change the copy on the page, you can change all that. The only thing you can't change is your rewards when you, or your price packages when you actually go and launch your campaign. And once someone has bought a reward, you can't change it. Thoughts on utilizing old journal pics of people using? Yes, do it for sure. As long as it's not like blatantly obvious, it's not the same product, absolutely use those same images. Okay, we'll get into influencers soon. Okay, so Tim asks, what if you have already booked and paid for the production of the product? In my case, my product will arrive in North America mid-October. I love this. So Tim, you fall under the, I think, going to pre-orders on your website. So in this case, what I would look to do, if you already have product, you put a deposit down and you started manufacturing, at this point, what I recommend you do is open up pre-orders on your website. I think you're at that point, you're 8 weeks away from fulfilling. So I'd be looking at getting a pre-order campaign together on your own website and start taking orders. Like, I feel like you've already started taking pre-orders, but that's what I would do if you have already kind of committed to inventory, and go from there. Julie asks, well, I just thought of, are you able to sell subscriptions on Kickstarter? Assuming not, as I'm not sure how the credit card processing would work. So no, Julie's product is a journal. So I'm going to use, where is it? I have it. Plugging Julie's product, link in the bio or whatever. Anyway, okay, so Julie first launched this product on Indiegogo, and it's going to be a new version of this. I don't know how much I could say on it, but a new version of this. And this is a quarterly subscription. So people right now have the option of purchasing one time, subscribing to get it every 3 months, or buying an annual pack. So short answer, no, you cannot do subscriptions on Kickstarter, but the way around that would be to, if you have something that people can buy month over month or every quarter or whatnot, then you will sell bulk packs. So you might have sell the journal one time, buy an annual pack of 4, buy 6 copies, etc. Right? So that's what I would do. I would love it if they did subscription, but Kickstarter seems to be fighting being used for e-commerce, which is a whole other topic, but yes. Okay, let me see if there's anything else. Okay, one more question, then let's take a 5-minute break. Does Kickstarter's algorithm for promoting a product, so this is from Sophia, does Kickstarter's algorithm for promoting a product factor in the amount of stock available, how many units are being sold? As in, is it less likely to be promoted if less people will be able to purchase because of limited stock? Or does the algorithm prioritize units sold on the first day and quality of content product landing page? So short answer, Sophia, is that Kickstarter's algorithm, as far as I know, does not take into consideration number of units available. A lot of creators, it's a strategy where they'll artificially say they only have X amount of units to like trick the algorithm into whatever, or trick people into buying faster, so it helps with the algorithm. So no Kickstarter, as far as I know, does not take into consideration number of units sold against that. What the algorithm determines as success, popularity, trending comes down to percentage raised against your funding goal, how much traffic is coming to your website, and how many people are buying and comments. So overall activity on your page, not necessarily the number of units you have available, because that's very easy to mislead on that. Okay, and if you're saying, is it the quality of the content landing page? So by default, if you have quality of content on the landing page and the product and the sales page and the video, that means it's performing well, people are buying, therefore you rank better. So, okay, awesome. Let's take a quick 5-minute break for water, and then we'll come back at 25 after, okay? Any questions that come up just put them in the chat. Actually, I realize we've been going for just over 75 minutes, so let's take a 10-minute break. 2 more minutes. And for those that didn't hear, I decided to take a 10-minute break. Okay, we're back. Cool. Here we are. Okay. I'm just gonna get to Tim's question real quick, and then we will talk about, I mean, unless if you don't want us to, how to actually do the campaign. Although I'm assuming that's why you're here. So Tim asks, I've already pre-sold 19 units through pre-order. Does that disqualify me for Kickstarter? Nope. Because as long as there's no trace of evidence that you were selling the product or are selling the product, you are fine. So if a lot of people will turn on pre-orders on a landing page or a website to test the product, and when they get the traction they want to see, then they will take all that down, turn that pre-sale option into a landing page to collect emails and prepare for a Kickstarter. So that's just what you want to do, is you want to make sure when you're doing your pre-launch, your waitlist building, that you switch everything over to waitlist building and not pre-orders. Okay. And then, I mean, Kickstarter might find something, but as long as you kind of wipe it from the internet, it's like it didn't happen. So you're good to go. What Kickstarter really cares about is you not using the Kickstarter success to funnel traffic to your website and essentially take sales on your website. They need to be when, like, actually that's kind of a separate thing, but remove all proof of pre-orders from the web. And then secondly, don't have pre-orders available anywhere else but Kickstarter, because that does not comply with their terms of service or community guidelines. So, okay. Who is excited? Are you guys feeling good? Because I'm really pumped to get into the strategy side. What I would love to know, based on what we just have covered in the first half of this, we've talked about Kickstarter versus pre-orders on your own website, or just going direct to your website to sell. If you are leaning toward doing a Kickstarter campaign, can you put a 1 in the chat? And if you're leaning toward launching or just focusing on your own website, put a 2. And if you don't know, put 3. Awesome. So we have a couple for Kickstarter. Tim, unsure, totally cool. You don't have to decide today. So we're going to talk about a couple. Random side note. Do you guys ever have something around you that just picks you up? I bought this mug a couple of years ago, and whenever I wake up feeling kind of off or I need to bring it, I use the mug because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a CEO. If you have something that you use like that, pair of glasses, favorite shirt, whatever, let me know. I can't be the only weird one. Okay, let's go. So this conversation seems to be leaning more toward the Kickstarter side. So let's talk. Julie, I hope this by default will answer a couple of your questions about the landing page. So I want to show you where it all starts. So when you go to, actually, I'm going to pause this for a sec. Pause share. Okay. So when you go to prepare for your Kickstarter launch, if you're an existing brand, your strategy is going to be slightly different, because if you are, say, Julie, coming in with an existing audience, then there's a couple ways to do it. So if you're coming in as an existing brand, or you already have a little bit of an email list, and I'm talking you can have as little as 50 people on your list. It doesn't have to be 10,000 people, but if your strategy to go to Kickstarter is going to be slightly different, slightly different if you are starting from 0 versus have a bit of an audience already built up. So if you are someone who is an existing audience, your marketing is going to look like this, okay? You have product, and you take what I call a 2-pronged marketing approach, okay? So if you are starting from 0, your marketing looks like this with the product, okay? So if you are new, starting from 0, you have a kind of a linear way to get to market. So if you are new, then you're going to focus on building up one wait list around the one product, the whole conversation you have online, from the ads you're doing with Facebook, Instagram, from the social media posts to the influencers you reach out to for product sponsorships, to everything is the single point of contact, and conversation is you're talking about that product and you're building up awareness around that product, okay? So that is where everything's really easy if you're starting from 0, because you really only have one thing to talk about, okay? Different ways to do that, but things get a little interesting when you're an existing brand and you have to do a marketing campaign that involves your existing audience and your new audience, okay? So I want to talk a little bit about, because I think the people here already have a little bit of a wait list or existing brand. Tim, this would apply to you, because even though you may not already, you're taking pre-orders, so this kind of applies to you, okay? So you as an existing brand have a two-pronged marketing approach, meaning when we work with a brand, here's what we want to do. When we worked with Founder already had an audience, they had social media following, they had an email list, they already had customers. But then they had this new product, right? So what we did was we split their marketing campaigns into two marketing campaigns. We had a marketing campaign that meant to talk to their existing audience, and we had a marketing campaign that meant to bring in new people. So what we did was we built a landing page, which had information on the product and an opportunity to opt in for 2 free chapters of Founder's Coffee Table book. Okay, what we're going to see, I'll talk about discounts and opt-ins and stuff in a sec, but the whole point is that when you start to market something, you need a place to capture interest online. So the very first thing you want to do is build a landing page on your product. Doesn't matter if you can build it on your own Shopify site, which I recommend, because why bring in extra software if you don't need to? You can use ClickFunnels. You can use any landing page software you want to do this, okay? So when we worked with Founder, we designed their team. I consulted for them. So their team designed a landing page that was meant to capture interest so that whenever they did a shout out on social media for the new product, whenever they sent an email to their list about the new product, whenever they drove traffic to that page to try to build a wait list for that product, they had one page that was meant to have people opt in if they want to get more information about this product specifically. Okay, so that is number one. If you are like a new brand, you need that same landing page. Okay, that's the thing that's the same. Then what you do when you're an existing brand, the first place you need to start is developing a marketing plan to your existing audience. So we did this with Sago Mini, which is a cute children's toy that we worked with out of Toronto. And they had an existing customer base online, offline, huge retail presence. The very first thing we did before we started marketing, built a landing page. And second, we started to tease our list. This is super important. Teasing the list is really important. We did something like the pre-announcement email where it's like, hey, customers, we are working on something really special and amazing behind the scenes. Can't wait to share it with you. Okay, so you kind of do the teaser, the big, like the teaser, so that in a couple of days when you go to send the email that, hey, here's this awesome thing we've been working on, then that email is received with a lot of excitement. Okay, so the very first thing we do before we're even public about this new product is we want to treat our existing customers like VIPs. We need to let them in on new products first. And in that email, we don't just say, hey, we're launching a new book, yay, stay tuned for details. What we say is, first off, email one is, hey, we're so excited, cannot wait to share with you something big we're working on. 4 days later, boom, here's the big reveal. And the big reveal has information about the product, what Kickstarter is, why we're doing Kickstarter, and a call to action. If you would like to follow our journey, if you'd like to grab the first 2 chapters, if you would like to unlock the 15% off discount code for when we launch, click here. And what we're doing with that and doing the announcement to our existing audience first is we're asking them to join the waitlist for the new product. That's really important because I don't know how experienced people are with email marketing, but you don't want to be sending out emails to your entire list about the new product if people didn't want that. So I like to segment the list so that you're building a list of people, a wait list of people who are specifically interested in the new product, along with your existing customer base so that people can opt in for all the juicy details. Does this mean that you're not ever going to email your big normal list again about the launch? Absolutely not. It does not mean that. It just means that we want to essentially, not only do we do it for managing communication by separating people onto a wait list, but you want to be careful. well, how do I say this? It's also another way to gauge how excited people are in your audience about the launch. What if you do the big announcement and nobody joins your wait list? That shows there's an opportunity to dig in because your audience doesn't seem too excited about this new product for some reason. There's an opportunity to dig in. But typically, if you've designed this product because it's either something your customers have been begging you for or whatever that looks like, then the launch email should be taken and seen with a lot of excitement, okay? And then what you do with your list is you're going to be continuously talking about the launch as you move closer to it, have more call to actions, etc. A campaign for your existing audience will include talking about it on social media. A mentor of mine, Rachel Peterson, is going through a huge pre-order launch for her first book right now. And to see behind the scenes of what she's doing, she's doing like 100 TikTok videos between now and September when her book is available for the big launch around pre-selling her book. So she is talking to her existing audience when she's doing this. And so when we talk about, I feel like I need to get a resource for this, but when we talk about building a communication plan for your existing audience, the conversation is different because these are people who already kind of know your brand, may have used your product already. So we talk about the email blasts and introducing them to the product first. We've talked about getting them to opt into a wait list around the new product. We've talked about doing the social media posts and starting to build awareness with our existing audience. You could take this a step further with the Facebook group if you want. There's a lot you do with your existing audience before you go public to start building your wait list externally. Let me see if there are any questions about that. Okay, cool. I don't know why I'm like losing my voice. I can usually talk for hours. It's a skill. Okay. Are there any questions about building up awareness for an existing customer base? Let me know. Let's give it like 30 seconds, see if anyone asks. Okay, awesome. So the next thing you do after you have the communication plan for your existing audience, next thing you want to do is actually have a plan together for your audience, building your audience. So if you're an existing brand, you only have to build up your audience a little bit. So here's why I recommend still building up your wait list with cold traffic. Cold means that there are people that don't know of you before. So when you are like, for example, we talked to an author that is launching a journal, and we built a communication plan for their existing audience, Facebook group, TikTok, following, all the things. But then we also need to have a marketing plan together to build up their audience a little bit more. The reason we do this is that we need to be able to drive people to a landing page that don't know your product so that we can properly test messaging and how excited the market is for your product. So from a testing perspective, when you're going to do any paid ads with launches or with your product, you need to have a way to test that your messaging works, because especially if you're going to Kickstarter, a Kickstarter backer is very different from someone who's already bought a product of yours before. So you need to do a paid marketing campaign. I recommend, even if it's little as $500, to just test your audiences, test your messaging, test headlines, test a bit of creative. Okay. Honestly, you can't test too much with $500, but if you are on a budget, it is worth testing with cold traffic to make sure that your copy, headlines, images are going to convert when you actually go to launch. Okay, so building up this audience, whether you are an existing brand or new, is the same. So I want to show you one of our campaigns right now. Yeah, actually, I have something for you guys. I have something, hold on, let me see. I have a free resource, which you'll be able to work through on your own time. It's our product launch bundle. I don't know who's gone through this yet, but we have a, why did I just go through that? One sec. Okay, you go to this website, which you can do now or later, but you can opt in here, and we do have a paid option if you want a checklist, but we have a ton of free stuff to help you actually work through this process in there. So working through the launch, I'm a very visual person, so I find this very helpful when someone gives me examples. Okay, so here's an example of a product that we are getting ready for Kickstarter. So this is really good timing because this is at the very beginning of our product launch journey of audience building. So we're working with this team right now to build up an audience. And so again, whether you're an existing brand or you're new, you want to have a landing page that has information on your product that tells them very quickly what the product is, why it's different, and why they need to sign up, like what the next step is. So you build a landing page where they can then get a 15% off discount, which you're giving for free. So when you are advertising your product, you post on social media, you do a video about it, you talk to your friend about it. However you're marketing it, you have one place online where your product lives, and you send everyone here to start building this wait list. Okay. When you have this, people are going to join your email list, and from that, you keep in contact with them through emails. Say once a week, you send a newsletter for updates for launch. You ask them to join your Facebook group, or you ask them to like you on social media, etc. But I want to take you through some of the psychology of this funnel, because I think this is very fascinating and something that everyone should do if you are building up your audience for either Kickstarter, or you want to build up your audience a little bit for pre-orders before you ask people to buy. Okay, so I don't know if Julie was asking a question about our VIP funnel. So one thing that we have here is this idea of a micro commitment. So if we just had in our funnel where people are signing up to get a 15% discount, our conversion rate on our list to someone buying our product is going to be really, really, really terrible. Okay, there's just too much going on. They may miss the email, etc. So we need a way to actually get a commitment from them that they're more likely to follow through in the order, as in make sure they're serious about buying the product. So what we have is, after somebody joins our wait list, we have this thing called a VIP offer. So this is using a piece of psychology called a micro commitment, which says that anyone who actually takes out their wallet and votes, as in puts down a deposit on the product, is 30 to 40% more likely to follow through and buy the product because they've made a commitment. So this VIP test caveat, we ask them for a $1 deposit. If your product is $2,000, you may want to consider that $1 deposit, but we use a standard $1 deposit for products between $100 and $500. Okay. And with just a $1 deposit, this is going to weed out anybody who is not serious, but also indicate to us how much demand there is for the product and be able to forecast how well the launch is going to do. So by taking people through this funnel where they go to your website, sign up for 15% off, and then have the option of putting down a $1 deposit, is going to help us significantly increase the quality of the list. Okay, so this is a really cool application for market validation. So if you just want to even test new products before you commit to launching it, you can use a system like this, which we have in our Product Validation Academy, to actually walk you through setting up a funnel like this over 30 days and seeing how much traction there is for your product. But also for launches, it is traditionally used to qualify your audience. And this is very, very important, okay? So let me see if there's any questions about this. Oh yeah, Julie, thanks. I'll email out the product launch bundle. I'll email that out after, okay. It's going to look like this, I'll send it later. Okay, cool. But yeah, and so how to do the VIP program is the very first step is you need to offer something. With Founder, we didn't, I don't remember if we offered a discount, but we did offer the first 2 chapters. So we offered something of value in exchange for the email, okay? With this, we're offering 15% off. Number 2 is on the VIP page, we offer something even more value. We want to make what's called an irresistible offer. If there's any Dan Kennedy fans, shout out. But an irresistible offer where we want to make it seem like a no-brainer. If they are serious about following through, for just $1, they're unlocking another 20% off, and which is a total discount of 35% off. So if they're serious about buying this product, we're like, oh, no-brainer. I want to put down $1. Okay. So that's the kind of the psychology between the funnel step is you have the interest at the beginning, and then you have the irresistible offer on the second page, so they vote with their wallets. Okay, that is one of the most important lessons you are going to learn as a business owner, is that a product is not validated until somebody actually pays for it or puts a deposit down or opens their wallet. It's not enough to have someone say, oh, that sounds like a great idea. You need to ask for the sale, and this is our way of doing that. Any questions so far? Because Julie, I know you had a couple questions about VIP. So how do we collect payment for VIP sign up that automates into an email? So that's super Shopify specific. It's going to be something where you create a $1 product, and that product's going to be something that gets automatically added to a listing Klaviyo. You don't have to use ClickFunnels. So ClickFunnels, you can use Shopify for this. No, you cannot accept payment through a Shopify sign-up form. So doing this on Shopify, you're going to have your own product that gets set up with that. Okay, awesome. So we have the VIP program. How to prep for a launch. Let's bring some life into this because we've been going for a couple hours now. What is one question you have or concern you have that you would like us to cover now? We'd take a mini break from this. Okay, awesome. So we're just gonna leave that open. Let's transition to, you want to do a product launch and you need help, or what's the next step? So we've talked about building your audience and qualifying your audience through a VIP micro commitment, okay? Which something as little as $1 goes a long way. So when it comes time to do your launch, you need a professionally produced video. Okay, so you do, whether that's something you do in-house for a couple grand or you hire a videographer to help you, you need the product video. Expect to spend around 5K on it. You can spend way more than that if you want, and much less depending on workflow and kind of connections you have, okay? There's video. Also, where we're getting into right now is fourth quarter. So fourth quarter is the best time of year for online sellers because there's a huge opportunity with Black Friday, holiday offers, Christmas, New Year's, etc. It ends up being your biggest sales quarter of the year. And because of that, a lot of people assume that because it's the best time of year, that it's the best time of year to launch your product. So I want to talk about that. I, on Kickstarter, I don't recommend doing any pre-orders for products that people cannot get under their Christmas tree or just in their home for gifts this holiday season after about October 30th. So your Kickstarter launch should be finished by early November latest, and you should not be pushing a pre-order campaign in November, December, if people can't get your product until February. Let's talk about why. So if consumers are spending the most money in fourth quarter, why am I saying you shouldn't do pre-orders? Because consumers are budgeting their money on products that they can get in time for the holidays. So by default, not only are you competing against existing brands that have product in market, that have big budgets, that are able to deliver within a week or two, but people just are not going to prioritize. I mean, you'll get the odd pre-order, of course, but I just don't recommend doing a big marketing push when it's the most competitive, because your marketing costs are going to be 3 to 4 times higher than usual, and 3 to 4 times less effective because you're in pre-order. So of course, if you can deliver before Christmas, that changes things. But if you realistically are not fulfilling until after the holidays, your window is closing. So you have about the next 90 days to push pre-orders for this year and all that stuff. Okay. There's always the exception to the rule, but I typically do not recommend having pre-order launches happening November, December. Okay. So you tend to if you can't make October this year, what you're going to do is do a January launch. Okay. Just like that. And there's no right or wrong way. You can keep marketing your product in building up your wait list over November, December, but just know that do not launch during that time. Next question I get a lot is, who should I hire? Ooh, how to set pricing tiers and packages. That's a better one. We'll go there. Okay, how to set pricing tiers and packages for Kickstarter. So let's actually look at we're going to look at Kickstarter. Just going to pull up people already on Kickstarter. We're going to look at a watch campaign. Is it this one? No, it's not. It is 2 watches. Okay, great. So I want to talk about packaging. Okay, this is Filippo Loretti. They are one of the most funded timepieces, aka watches, on Kickstarter ever. And in our coaching programs, I do use them as an example for best practices with rewards. So when it comes to pricing packages, this is different from a e-commerce website. So if you've never bought on Kickstarter, these packages might be confusing to you. So when somebody goes to a Kickstarter campaign to pre-order something, they have to, on the right-hand side, choose what package they want. So we have pre-made packages that people buy depending on quantity they want, depending on items, or depending on packages. So when it comes to creating your rewards, first off, best practices, don't have more than 4 or 6 to start. The more choices you give people in the beginning, the more overwhelmed they're going to be, and the less likely it is that they will take action. The action you want is for them to buy your product. So don't make it hard by giving them 12 different options in the beginning. Okay, so have as little rewards as possible. So the question you are asking is, okay, well, what are the most obvious packages are people going to buy? So as an example, Filippo Loretti stacked it in terms of number of watches sold. So they did, you can buy 1 watch, 2 watches, 3 watches, 4 watches, and 5 watches. Okay. So just like that. So know the number that you're going to sell. Tim, as an example, you're selling a jacket that's around $500, I think. So what would make sense for you as a jacket is to have one jacket early bird, a couples pack jacket, and maybe 4 as a family pack. Or you might just want to keep it simple by saying 1, 2, and then mention wholesale pricing, which you could do at the very bottom of your page to say, let's see if they actually did this. But what happens is usually people will have at the very, very bottom of their page, like, oh, interested in wholesaling, email us here or chat with us. And you could do that just to direct conversations for custom quotes. Okay. You want to keep it simple. Other things people do, like if you are selling a watch plus accessories. So what if you have, let's say hypothetically, they were selling the luxury collections box and they were selling the cleaning solution, right? Do not put those as rewards on the main page. What you're going to do is create something called an add-on reward, where what happens when, and I didn't actually source a campaign to show you this, but let's just say this were live and I click on the 2 watches. Before I check out, it's going to give me add-on options, say, hey, would you like to add this to your order? And from that point, you're able to add on smaller accessories. Super important because you need to keep the main event the main event. You need to keep the focus on the main product you're looking to sell. So that's what we like doing. We did this with Jamstack in our second campaign, third technically, where we had so Jamstack is a guitar amplifier, and we ended up using a upselling portable speaker, upselling some accessories for it, upselling the guitar stand. Because we had like 10 upsells, we did not want to clutter the main page with all that. So there's a way to lay this out. It's super important that this is clean and you forecast the number of units you want to, or the number of items you want to put in one. Okay. In terms of where you can ship, so the cool thing about the reward packages is that you can add shipping with Kickstarter. So when you're setting up your rewards, you can tell them like per country, your shipping rate. You can do free shipping if you want. You can limit sale, like people saying people only in certain countries can buy this. Like, because if you only want to open this up to the US market, right? I get that. Some people want to ship everywhere. So it's very customizable in the back end where you're selling, who you're selling it to, etc. And side note, there are ways to collect sales tax after Kickstarter. We're not getting into that today, but, oh, it's $199 USD. Okay, cool. So Chris, does that answer your question? How to set pricing tiers and packages? With that, yes, perfect. Okay. Apart from that, the next thing I want to cover is how do you get support for your launch? This is tying into how to hire, how to get help, etc., and into how we work with people. So when it comes to hiring for your Kickstarter launch, there's a couple ways to do it. You can either outsource it to an agency, okay, or you hire a project manager who has done this before and they run the launch for you, okay? So that's one way. The other way is you end up doing it on your own using guidance of a consultant, or you buy a course and you just kind of work through that, right? So I want to talk about how you know it's the right time, because I find a lot of people buy courses when they should go agency, or they go they outsource everything, realizing they could have done it in-house. So I want to talk about how to make that choice for you. So hiring agencies to manage your Kickstarter launch is going to be around $30,000 to $40,000. That's market rate for this, because what you're paying for is full project management. You're paying for a video, you're paying for a full marketing team to build up this launch. So if you have your set sight on a 6-figure campaign and you're planning on putting in $50,000 to $60,000 into your launch, including marketing, including team, including all the things, agency is going to be a good route for you. Agency is going to be really good if you have a full-time job, business, etc. You don't want to be stuck in the weeds of learning how to market to do it yourself, and you want to do it fast and you have the capital to do it. Okay. So agency or hiring someone to do this for you is going to be a good option. The other option is more of my favorite. So if you are a founder that wants to actually learn how to market your product, you're a founder that wants to build a team, you're a founder that maybe already has social media help, you're a founder that has virtual assistants, you just need a bit of guidance, the other option is going to be to join a mastermind community, mentorship program, or buy a course and learn to do it yourself, which, yes, is definitely more work, but what you're trading is that it's a much lower priced option for a few thousand as opposed to 30 to 40,000. And you're learning a tangible skill that you can use to repeat launches in the future. So when you're looking at deciding how to do your launch, I would look at, am I looking at outsourcing this so I can focus on the vision and product design and have someone else do the marketing as a marketing partner? Or do I have the capacity and bandwidth to actually manage this myself and learn to do that with the blueprint? Those are typically the ways that we look to do this. Now, in terms of the best way to do it, so I'm just going to talk a bit about different ways to work with us, and then I'm going to jump to Q&As. So we have two ways to work with us. If you are someone who needs help with your launch, whether that is facilitating a Kickstarter launch or you need help getting orders on your website, we do that. And the thing to do, and I'm going to put this all in an email after I follow up, but you can go to our website and book a call with me. So the website is launchandscale.co. Okay, simple. Second, the second way to do it is going to be through our mentorship program, Product Launchpad. Product Launchpad is a done with you approach. It's an online course. It's a blueprint and full mentorship so that you have access to me and the team to actually help guide you through the process as you launch your product. So for someone who is looking to actually train their team on doing this or actually learn the process themselves and have expert guidance along the way, that's going to be our Product Launchpad. And we do have a promotion on which I'm not a huge fan of pitching on this, so I'll put details in it, but essentially we have a promotion on where when you join the Product Launchpad, by the end of the week, we're throwing in some really cool bonuses because you were here. So, and because chat's not working, I'm not going to drop any links in here, but are there any questions about either our marketing, like